Karen Wendell, President and CEO of Identrust, an organization that is committed to building online identity to fight fraud and create ubiquitous transaction ease on the internet. Thank you very much for speaking to us today. We haven't spoken to Identrust for a while. What's been going on to Identrust as an organization in the last 2 or 3 years?
So first of all, thank you for giving us this opportunity. We're very excited to be able to talk to your readers because it's a very core market segment for us. So Identrust actually, for good, bad, or indifferent, Identrust was an idea that was quite ahead of itself, so to speak. When we were first created by the banks back in 1998, the idea of a common interoperable identity was something that was very aspirational and very exciting, but the market wasn't really ready for it. So what's happened over the course of the last several years is 3 things have occurred. Number one, the need for a strong identity, something that would stand up to the rigors of being attacked by all of the various cyber criminals, has become increasingly important. And having that identity be done in such a way that it isn't just a solution for attacking and protecting against the criminals, but that can be something that could also be used for other things, has also become more important. And so from an Identrust perspective, number one, the increase in cybercrime has been very beneficial for us because it's provided us an opportunity to create awareness of what a bank-grade identity can do. But second, it's created awareness of the importance of having identity as a core function that can be used in many different ways. And so one of the biggest areas where we're getting a lot of attention right now is in the electronic bank account management space. And for corporates and banks, EBAM is a very hot topic. And in order for EBAM to work efficiently, you need to have the ability to create legally binding electronic signatures that truly identify you, both to the bank and from the corporate perspective. And the beauty of Identrust is Identrust, over the course of the last 10 years, has spent $200 million to make certain that electronic signatures and identities that are done using the Identrust bank-centric identity model can be accepted in 175 countries.
In order to do that, in order to create a utility or a function which can be shared by anyone on the internet, how was Identrust funded previously, and what do you think is the a better working model going forward?
That's a very important point with regard to how Identrust works. So Identrust was originally created by a group of 8 banks that then grew to 22 banks. So up until 2005, we were 100% owned by the banks. In 2005, we shifted to more of an entrepreneurial venture-backed scenario, and that was very useful for us during the growth phase because we were doing new development, we were exploring new markets, new segments. That phase has now come to what I would consider to be a logical end, and I think it's now time for us to go back to being in an environment where we have more bank ownership, more bank governance, because fundamentally what Identrust is all about is what our name says. We're about identity and trust, and I think that there is a logical place for us to be positioned as a bank-owned service that provides capabilities to the banks that the banks can sell to their customers, but that also provides a set of capabilities that corporates can leverage in their interactions with each other. And so going forward, I think that having Identrust being more of a bank-centric, bank-owned model, as opposed to being owned by venture capital or private, some form of private capital structure, I think will be very, very beneficial for us.
So your mandate as CEO is both to make sure the technology behind Identrust continues to develop, at the same time that you get more bank members on board.
Yes.
How's that going? What are the conversations that you're having with banks today?
So it's actually, that's one of the things that's very exciting about where we are, is that I think, first of all, we are, in terms of the growth of Identrust, there are several ways that Identrust grows because we're like a network. And so more banks joining the community, and we've had a number of fairly large names join the community in the last year. You've probably heard that Bank of America has become part of the Identrust community, which adds a lot of presence in the United States and in actually some other interesting markets because of Bank of America's footprint. We also had Commonwealth Bank of Australia join, and that is very important for us from an Asian perspective because they have a very interesting footprint in Asia. So that's examples of two of the types of banks, big global multinational banks. Bank of America joined because they wanted to have access to our electronic bank account management solution that they could take to their corporates. And that was a very specific strategic decision on their part. Commonwealth Bank of Australia joined because they wanted to have a higher level of security for access to their online banking platform. And they wanted to extend it not just to their corporates, but they wanted to look at extending it to the consumer platform as well. So both of them joined for slightly different reasons, one EBAM, one security, but both of them joined Identras because of the fundamental underpinnings of Identras, which are the regulatory and policy approvals.
Right. What is the critical success factor of Identras? And at which point do you have enough critical mass to be both financially viable as well as ubiquitous and be widely adopted globally?
Well, I want to own the world, Emmanuel. Very simply put, critical success factor for Identras is there are two ways for us to be successful and to have that critical success factor. The first one is for us to be used by the largest cash management banks, and there are 15 banks that basically control roughly 75% of all the cash management activities. Of those 15 banks today, we have 8 of those banks that are active, supportive, aggressive members of the Identras model. So one of our targets over the course of the next year is to bring the other banks of those 15 banks, to bring those other banks into the Identras community. And we won't go through the names of all of those, but we can just generally talk about, we really would like to bring in the traditional large cash management players into the community. So that's one part of success. The other part of success is to find many different ways for us to add value in different types of use cases. So, for example, moving into the consumer space and providing identities in the consumer space, because we've traditionally played at the corporate level. Moving into mobile, because mobile communications, mobile payments is something that's very important, and our members today, the network members, have said that they want us to move into the mobile space.
So in terms of creating protocols and also the kind of devices that you're supporting, what is the thinking in Identras about what it will take to make it successful?
So there are two things on that one. Number one, I think that there are still two different views in terms of the devices that are being used. One, I agree with you that there is an impetus on the part of customers saying, look, I already have a mobile phone, I already have a PDA, I already have an iPad, I'd like to have that be the storage mechanism for my identity. And so I think that we're going to see evolution along the line of using those as the mechanism for storage. One of the problems is that a lot of those devices don't really have the ability to store very highly secure identity mechanisms. So there have been a number of announcements recently where, for example, there are cell phones that are out there now that actually have 2 slots for SIM cards. And so you can actually put a very highly secure, encrypted digital certificate onto a SIM card, and you could actually have that and you can move it from device to device. And I think that's going to be one of the very interesting future plays here, because let's face it, when you get down to it, you do really need to have something that's strong, because one of the things that's been really obvious in the token wars, so to speak, is that as long as there's a criminal element out there, they're going to figure out how to break it. And right now, one of the things that is very important, I think is going to be clearly critical in the next several years, is PKI so far has been the one thing that has not been broken. And so I think that there's going to be an opportunity here for PKI credentials to become more ubiquitous. And I think that using this concept of a SIM card that you can put a chip onto and you can put a credential into is going to have a lot of footprint. So I think there's one path there. There's another path where actually we're seeing a big demand for USB devices, the tokens, that are zero footprint, where essentially what that means is all of the things that you need to basically create a secure channel, to establish your identity, and to make certain that you really are Karen Wendell, all of that is stored on the device. And it doesn't leave a footprint on a computer, so you could use it in a kiosk, you can use it at home, you can use it in your laptop, you can use it actually in a lot of the PDAs that are now having USB connections. So I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see these USB devices that are going to have chips in them. Those USB devices are going to be contactless. They're also going to have the USB capability, and they're going to be based on digital certificates with a zero footprint where you have a hardened browser on the device.
Karen, thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much, Manuel.